My name is Tiffany DePani. Thank you for coming. I'd like to introduce Ted Rubin and Ramon DeLeon. If you could please put your attention towards the back of the room. Enjoy.
Good morning, everybody. Happy to see you here. We wanted to get this thing started off right. We're here to wake you up. We're here to shake you up. We want to talk about a change in attitude and a change in framework. And we want to start you off the right way because we want to put smiles on everybody's faces, because you have to smile when you skip. So change your attitude, skip with people around you, you'll always be happy. I learned this from my daughters, and we're here to talk about, she forgot.
It's all right.
We're here to talk about a change in framework, the way business is changing.
Now, tell you, when I was skipping, I was definitely happy. I think there's no way to do it and not be happy.
No, it's impossible. I'm a divorced dad, and my daughters were 5 and 7 years old when I got divorced, and all they did was bicker. You guys have kids? You ever do that? I mean, in the car, she's staring at me, okay? She's looking at me, my personal favorite, she's smelling me, okay? I don't know how you answer that. And what I discovered whenever I was with my girls is that when we skipped, everything changed. The whole attitude and perspective changed, and everybody became happy. And what I've learned is that not only can you change your day by skipping if you're not feeling good, I promise you, you'll change the attitude of the people around you.
And the reason that we wanted to start with this is that if you are doing business today, as you were quite possibly a year ago, 2 years ago, Lord help you, a decade ago, there's no way that you're going to be ready for tomorrow, much less the decade that's to come. Before we not been for a social media conference at Disney, I would not have had the honor of not only getting to know you, like you, and trust you, let alone be here live at Hispanicize with Ted Rubin.
Thank you very much, Ramon. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't know him as Ramon DeLeon. We know him as Ramon Wow. Okay, Ramon is a man that started out delivering pizzas for Domino's. He got up to the point of running a franchise group in Chicago and took it upon himself to start social media marketing, not just for the local franchise, but for the brand itself. And if you guys remember back to when this was going on, Domino's did not really recognize Ramon, but he did it anyway. He included them anyway. He built their brand because he believed in the product he was selling. Now, Ramon has moved on from what he did there, and by the way, the franchise supported him. He traveled around the world, he spoke, and now he's helping brands all across the country do the same thing, and we share a passion for empowering employees.
Absolutely.
Because consumers are one thing, and they, of course, are in game, but if you empower your employees,
they're going to empower your brand.
You will empower your brand.
So let's hit this, Ted, with what I call my first slide. And the thing is, no matter what challenges you have today, you need to look past today and beyond tomorrow. And I wanted to start out with this slide so that when you look at your challenges and you think, Dios mío, how can I get my employees, mis empleados, que me hagan caso, so that they can be part of our brand identity? I have all of these challenges. We're going to share with you some facts, some philosophy, and some tactics so that you can do that. The reason that you need to do it now before later is this. 2-year-old on the left already has digital DNA, has a following. How many people do we know already have these digital footprints from almost the point of conception? Don't want to say that. My nephew's nephew. At the age of 6 months, I love that t-shirt. I can't talk, but I'm already on Facebook. The thing is that this next generation that is headed your way is a generation that you're going to need to understand now better than tomorrow.
How many companies say, we don't need to do that? We don't need to do it that way. We're doing fine the way we're doing. The problem is that's today, and things are changing. It's not just about us, and we're all changing. We're all changing the way we produce media, the way we consume media, but kids are changing it completely. And my belief is that they get social better than we ever will because they are social. They're using social channels to actually
be social.
Communicate. They're not just blasting out things. They don't get that because they see that as just more advertising. All the stuff that we talk about, that use social the way it should be used, otherwise it's just advertising. They do it naturally.
Absolutely. So take a look at this. Do you remember your potty training days? This is how they're learning. Like it, love it or not. So in a generation or two, when the person learned how to use the bathroom this way is in front of you with their resume, trust me, they're already going to have a brand, an identity, and a following. And we can't be like many parents today and just say, eso yo no lo entiendo. You need to understand it. You need to accept it and be ready for it. Check this out. So kids today, they no longer want to be president. They just want to get his attention. Because they are growing up with this philosophy that they can change the world, that they can solve problems. And we as a brand and as people need to be ready for them.
We have to be more than ready. We've got to get ahead of the curve. We've got to start realizing that it's not just about empowering employees to do things for us, but to do things for themselves. It's not just about giving them materials or articles or posts or things to share. It's about helping them build their brand. Anybody here know what the average employment time for an employee these days? It's under 3 years, which means the average student coming out of college will have 15 jobs in his lifetime or her lifetime. They should be leaving your employment better than when they came. You should be helping them grow their brands. You should be getting them to become more influencers. Because the more they can influence, the more they can do for you. Our employees naturally want to speak for our brands, but we don't support that. True. We're afraid of it. Ramon wasn't supported. Imagine what would have happened at Domino's. If they jumped in and supported Ramon, instead of creating a fear factor, how many more employees probably would have jumped in and started doing the same thing? What do you think would have happened, Ramon? What do you think would have happened around the world?
I think we could have created an army. We could have created an army of voices all over the world and in different languages to not only unite the brand, but unite the customers. So as we go forward, Ted, I think we need to state one very important fact about social media. Ted believes, and so do I. Now Ted, we're in Miami. My Spanish is challenged in Miami because everybody habla español aquí. But Ted, you are about to learn 6 very valuable words in Spanish which actually happen to be yours.
And I need to learn some Spanish.
So here we're going to go. Ted, repeat after me. I want you to say, sin mujeres.
Sin mujeres.
Redes sociales.
Redes sociales.
No existe.
No existe.
Absolutely. So sin las mujeres, without women, social media doesn't exist.
Men do not communicate that way. We talk at each other. It's really that simple. We don't even listen to what each other's saying. We wait for the other guy to finish talking so that we can say what we want to say. We're thinking about what we're going to say next. Well, how many of you women would just like once for your husbands to be paying attention, not looking over your shoulder at the ESPN scores? Just once. Right? Men do not communicate that way. Show me one guy, no matter how metro he is, going into a store, taking a picture of his shirt, sending out to 10 of his buddies, waiting to see what they all say, taking the shirt home, and then his bestie sends him a text saying, and it's got to go back to the store. Doesn't happen that way. And that's a good thing that it's about women, because you guys control. People say 85% of the purchases in this country. I say it's more like 98%.
Yeah, and the other 2% are probably handled by kids.
Yeah, because I think it's 85% of the purchases. It's the other 15% is men making purchases based on what you guys want and like. Correct?
Absolutely.
So to me, that is so important that we've got to start actually communicating and supporting the people around us. We have to be a community, not a network.
So true. So you know what? So what's the goal with regards to what we want to do today? We want to inspire you to make a difference not only in the lives of your customers, of your friends, and of your employees. And many times easier said than done.
Much easier said than done.
So, to give you a little bit of insight of who is it that you have in front of you today, Ted, you have been able to build a brand. Now granted, we all wear socks.
We do.
Or almost most of the time. But how did your authority, your personal brand on socks, come to light?
You know, and this is important because this is about listening. I did not sit. How many of you guys know that I post my socks almost every day? right? So here are today's. They're the ones up on the screen. They were given to me by a local company called County Line Cairo, who I spoke to their entire employee base recently. I was brought in to speak to them. But what happened was, I was listening. I did not sit in a brainstorming session. I did not call up Ramon and say, Ramon, how can I get attention? I like funky socks. And I was wearing them at conferences, and bloggers started taking pictures of them. And they started publishing them. And the next day, bloggers were saying, well, what's Ted wearing today? And I was listening. So I posted it. And then, of course, I stopped. And people are like, well, because the conference is over, you're not posting your socks anymore? To this day, I get CEOs and CMOs from companies around the country that reach out and want to know what socks I'm wearing that day, that make comments on my Facebook page saying, my day is not complete until I know what Ted's wearing today.
Not only that, but you have people, and this is real time earlier today.
Making socks. Oh, posting me,
Yes.
John Andrews, sending me a tweet about his pirate socks. I get these things from all over the country. I get Wall Street executives sending me pictures of their socks. I walk into buildings and there's 6 Wall Street guys all suited up, and one of them sees me and goes, dude, pulls up his pants and won't leave while 6 guys are going, we've got like $1 billion merger we're working on. He goes, gotta get my sock picture. This is a way to connect and communicate. And the problem with a lot of brands is they say, well, that's not on brand. Well, that's not what we do. But remember something. And by the way, let me just give you a little background on myself. My head is like a Twitter feed, okay? Things popping into it all the time. I jump around a lot. I might change the topic, I might jump ahead to a slide that's coming later, just because it hits my head. You guys got 2 choices. You can let me go, or you can pull me back and say, finish what you were talking about. We never heard the end of that. It's really up to you guys. I keep a phone by my bed, not for the same reason you guys do. Maybe it's gonna ring, maybe I get a text message. I keep it because in the middle of the night when you used to take notes on those pads, I tweet. So when something comes to my head in the middle of the night, I tweet it out. By the time I wake up, I've got feedback. I know whether it worked or not. Return on Relationship came from me thinking, tweeting it out. Back in 2009 in January, I had 1,000 Twitter followers, which was considered a lot then, and I had 20 responses in 5 minutes, and I knew I was onto something.
Now, the reason I think that's happening to you, and the reason that we're able to provide some insights today, leads into this. See, the thing is, I believe that it's the way that a brand and that people view their employees. You know, are they just people in an assembly line, or are they actually people? I love what you say, Ted, about you want to try and help people figure out what it is that they want to do in life, and make sure that when they leave your contact, your persona, their own persona is bigger than it was when they first came.
You got to understand, you guys got 2 choices. Companies have 2 choices. They can continue to try to control the media content, the things their employees are saying, or they can embrace the fact that you're going to say it anyway. Anybody here work for companies that don't allow social media in the office? Right? How could that be? You've got an iPhone. You're sitting there using it under your desk anyway. All they're doing is empowering you to do something that's not appropriate, instead of embracing the fact that you guys are their best advocates, that employees are the ones that can help the company. Everybody, and you tell me if I'm wrong, please, everybody wants to support the company they work for. Everybody wants to feel good about the company they work for. Even the people that basically bitch when they go home want to tell their friends they like the company they work for. And if you get empowered by these people, if you think of them as brand advocates. I was at a conference last week, last week, it was Thursday and Friday, that had 1,700 attendees. And one of the conversations I was having was with a brand that said, well, we're not allowing any of our employees to do any of this. And I'm like, what do you mean you're not allowing? Well, they're not allowed to tweet. They're not allowed to talk about things. I go, so when they go home, they're not allowed to tweet? Well, we can fire them. It's in their contract. I go, seriously? Like, first of all, there's going to be a lawsuit, there's going to be a case about this. Second of all, they can't possibly control it. It's like a dam bursting. Ramon's got his finger in there. Imagine Ramon with his finger sitting there in the dam, right? With the water starting to leak out around it. It can't possibly continue.
Absolutely. Now, see, I want to share with you the mindset on what I think can really help you. What you should really do is determine within your organization, what are the behaviors? What are the behaviors that fuel those positive things, those touch points, that customer experience that you truly desire? Once you see that, you figure it out and you identify it, next thing you need to do is motivate it. Now, when I was at Domino's Pizza, did I have days like this? Did I have days where I felt I had the weight of the brand on my shoulders? In 2009, I don't know if you heard about, there was a YouTube scandal out of North Carolina where we had a couple of team members who thought it was very funny to literally do some horrible things to some product and put it up on YouTube.
Guys,
Talking about
remember
like blowing their nose into it, put it up. And the thing is that at that time, I already had a Twitter ID. Domino's Corporate didn't. Over that whole week, I think that I probably led the charge with letting the world know that was an isolated incident, and this is what it felt like. You know, responding to blog posts, responding to messages, whereas the corporation didn't have a Twitter ID, and they wanted to use traditional marketing, traditional ways to try and make that go away. Once it's digital and it's out there, it is not going away.
When you want to take on things like this, so again, I tell you, I'm a divorced dad, and my daughters know that there's times when they have to talk to me because they're not just going to call me up and say, I want something expensive. They got to talk to me. I've got their full attention. My daughter's going to pay. When she wants something, she's going to listen to every word out of my mouth. My daughter calls me up and says, Dad, I want Adobe Photoshop. She's in high school. Adobe Photoshop's not inexpensive. So I say to her, why? She gives me a great reason. She's wants to study fine arts in college. I go, I'll do it with you. She goes, then of course I have to live through the divorced dad comment. Mom says you're going to try to get me a pirated version. I want the real one from Adobe. So I say, come on over, we'll do it together. Anybody here ever try to download Adobe Photoshop? Next to impossible. Okay? Once you get it, fabulous. She comes over, text is going off every 5 minutes. It's not your dad's night, when are you coming home? It's not your dad's night, when are you coming home? And we're trying to download this thing and it just won't go there. It's after 6 o'clock. So I call the 800 number and what do I get? I'm sorry, but call back tomorrow. Customer service is open 9 to 6. So I go to Twitter. Now here's where the employee empowerment comes in and how they can support your brand. I tweet out nothing negative. I didn't even tweet Adobe. I was expecting one of you guys to help me. I tweeted out, can anybody help trying to download Adobe Photoshop, having a problem? Within 10 minutes, I got tweets from 7 different Adobe employees in 7 different parts of the globe in 7 different job functions. And I'm going to show you how easy the training was. All they said was, how can I help you? We saw you're having trouble. How can I help you? Not very difficult. And guess what? They helped me. They paid attention to each other. It narrowed down to one person. My daughter had to leave. They set me up with somebody that would fix it for me the next time I had the computer, and they stayed on. They didn't just say, how can I help you? You ever get this one, how can I help you? You tweet back and there's dead space. Nobody's there. Don't walk away from these conversations. Don't walk away until they're over. Or if you have to walk away, say, I'm walking away. I've got to go. Contact me later. Here's the thing, but they kept it public, they let everybody see it, and they resolved it. Adobe empowers all their employees at all different levels to help people when the weight of the brand feels like that.
Now there's times, Ted, when there is some necessary training that's much bigger than a how can I help you?
Right.
And you actually have to put dollars and you have to put time behind it. Now this slide here.
One of my favorite slides. How many of you guys have experienced
sums it up.
something like this? What happens when we invest in developing our people and they leave us? What happens if we don't and they stay? That's the way companies have to start thinking and recognize that it's okay to pass somebody on to another company. Start a groundswell that if one company does it, another company will do it. And then you as employees have to start demanding these things. You really do. How was this country built? How was the labor in this country paid? How did everything happen here? People stood up together. And it goes way beyond this. It goes to creativity as well, right, Ramon?
Absolutely. So the thing that I love that I love about this is that I think many times brands forget that. So you have that person that left you, and they go on forward. Because of the lifespan of a job, doesn't mean that they're going to stay wherever they're at. There's many times when they go forward to that second job or to that different career, they can come back to you as a potential client because they know your business, they know the product.
Or they can come back to you as an employee. Perfect example, Adam Kamiak ran social for Walgreens, left and went to Campbell's for 2 years, just came back at a higher level position at Walgreens. And the same thing's going to happen with you. If you empower people, they will also go out and speak about you. American Express, when they let people go, they give them 6 months notice, they give them retraining, they let them look for jobs from where they're working. And then when people leave, they leave feeling good about American Express.
So what you're saying here that brands not only have to change the way they're thinking, but they also have to change the way they're communicating.
Yes.
And what?
Anybody know the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus? Yeah. We communicate differently, right? Well, I say brands are from Mars and consumers are from Venus. Because brands speak to you the same way your husband does. The same way guys talk. I walked in here this morning, getting ready for my session, and I walked in, and right away I walked in, and I'm a nice guy. I really am. But I walked in this morning, I said, you got to move this out of the aisle, you got to do this here, and Tiffany called me out. She said, did you see the way you just talked to that guy? Be nice. Part of my brand is just be nice, but sometimes we forget that. We're guys. It's the way we think. It's the way brands do. They shout out at you, buy my shit. Right? I got the best shit.
So buy it.
Right? They don't say why. They don't give you an understanding. The same thing with employees. Go and work. Do your job. But what it should be is, what can we do to make you more powerful as an employee?
Now, when you look at the employees and where they're getting their training and they're learning from, this photo that I have, that I came across called Think, true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind, I found it in an elementary school. And I've shared this photo saying, how many of you would love to have a sign like this in your workplace or in your office? When you have fear of the send button, step away. But the thing is that this is a prime example of how your next generation customers are employees and customers are learning the tools of social media. Now, Ted, you had that little scenario right now where you talked about being kind, be nice, and you kind of got called out. But what happened here with regards to this comment about a smile on an airline?
It was as simple as, just observe. I fly a lot. Okay, I travel around the country, and I watch flight attendants and how they behave. And I just try to learn from what I see. And I see the flight attendants that smile, they can tell you the exact same thing. I'm really sorry, sir, you can't put that in the overhead. We're gonna have to give it to the attendant outside. Or the one that says, why'd you bring that on here? You can't possibly put it up there. I've had them do it to me. I'm trying to put my bag in, and it's clearly not fitting wheels in, and they're like, you must turn that the other way. It's all about attitude. It's all the way about the way you communicate with people. Smiles go an incredibly long way. You give them out, they will come back to you, I assure you.
So there's two things that come to mind immediately when you talk about smiles and possibly how contagious they could be. I think that the metaphor where they say it's the raindrops that makes the showers. I love how after you posted that story and within your Facebook timeline, someone said, Ted, I just love people who smile even when it's raining.
The quote that's on my personal profile is, life's not about waiting for the storm to pass, it's about learning to dance in the rain. And for me, it's about attitude. I went through an incredibly difficult time in my life keeping my daughters in my life. I had to fight for them for 4 years. And I was very angry. At the end of that, it drained me of resources, of time. And I realized that the anger was just getting me nowhere. This is true life experience. This isn't somebody that's saying it and not doing it. And I grew up as a New Yorker. How do you grow up as a New Yorker? Somebody bumps into you, you're walking down the street and you go, hey dude, what's the deal? Right? Right? I've learned just not to do that anymore. What I've learned is that it goes into the marketplace, it goes into retail, it goes into anybody you're dealing with. It has to do with customer service. You call up a customer service line, you don't have to get a yes. JetBlue, when you complain to them on Twitter, they're not taking off the plane because you're pissed that it's stuck on the runway. But what do you want? If they engage with you, if they engage with you with a smile, if they have a little bit of fun with it, then you feel better.
So you just mentioned...
What I've learned is that I feel better when I smile. Yes. It's not just about you.
You just mentioned two things, about brands engaging and obviously paying attention, and your daughters.
Yes.
So one of your daughters is close to coming up to college, correct?
Yes, she's junior in high school.
You recently went on to...
Duke University.
A college campus tour,
yeah.
And...
It was a big thing for me.
Right.
I didn't get to take my older daughter to see any college campuses. Right. I got tickets to the Duke-Syracuse game.
So during the game, you sent a tweet, I believe, and there was a courier that saw it and reached out to engage with you.
I tweeted out Duke, Duke, Duke.
Right there, right?
Right.
So you tweeted this out, you're just watching the game.
Right.
And then what happened?
Well, FedEx reached out, they communicated with me a little bit, they asked me for my address, and they left it at that. And about a week later, a box arrives at my house. And inside that box is all Duke gear. Now I'm going to tell you how far Duke gear, like Duke towels, Duke hats, basically saying, we saw what you were doing, with a little note. They put this note in there saying, hi, we were subtle about it, but something tells us you're a Duke fan. And they sent me something to bridge that gap, to make that engagement. They went so far in that the guy I went to the Duke game with, my ex-partner John Andrews from Collective Bias, had just gotten a Maserati. And I don't even remember mentioning it, but it must have been somewhere they sent me a model Maserati. But here's where it breaks down. This was clearly a PR engagement, set up probably by an outside company. I got that package. I tweeted out to Duke. I mean to FedEx. I never heard back. I've probably tweeted out 7 to 10 times. Thanks for the box. It was really great. Then they started changing. Surprised I haven't heard back from you guys. You went to all this effort and now nothing. And it's really about that this has to be part of your culture. It has to be part of your DNA. You can't hire firms to build engagement. You can't hire firms to help you connect with your employees. Anybody ever been to those outside things where all the employees go and you fall backwards in the people's arms and they're trying to create connectivity, right? And then you go back to work and everything's the same. People are walking in the morning grumpy. Ever walk in a New York City office in the morning with people all in the lobby and everybody's like this? You know, I used to walk in with John Andrews and I go, "Good morning, everybody." He'd go, "Dude, you're freaking them out." But if you do it all the time, if you make it a part of your brand, a brand is what your business does. A reputation is what people remember. So if FedEx had done this and just even had the slightest bit of engagement afterwards, they would have owned me. Now they did just the opposite. I thought pretty well of FedEx. Now I'm thinking, what a bunch of jerks. You know, they're hiring an outside company, they're sending me something, and they're not even paying attention when I'm tweeting back. Imagine all the money they spent on this. So when you're doing these things, you've got to ingrain it in your company. You guys got to start raising your hand and say, I want to love this company. I want you guys to start supporting me. I need you to encourage me to daydream, to doodle, to actually think. Does anybody here ever take time to think? Try this exercise. Anybody here working in a big company? Right? Go into the office. The next day you're back. Hopefully you're here all this week, so next week. Sit at a desk. Put your hands in front of you and just stare straight ahead. See how long it takes somebody to come over and ask you, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "What are you doing?"
Thinking.
"I'm thinking." "You're what?"
Thinking.
"I'm thinking." Encourage that.
That'll make a huge difference. Now, I want to share with you an example of where I believe it's in an airline's DNA. Now, it doesn't always happen. I mean, there are some people that fly a certain airline and everything goes absolutely wrong with them. And then there's the lucky that seems that there's nothing that they can do wrong. A couple of years ago in December, while flying back from an event in Paris back to Chicago, I sent a tweet to American Airlines. And I basically just told American, when this plane lands in Chicago, I would have finally reached executive platinum status, meaning that it had flown over 100,000 miles in a year, which I was like really excited. I was like, oh my God, this has never happened. You know, so I'm very excited. So the only thing I was really expecting the brand to do was just say something. And they did. They said, "Hey, Ramon, we send you virtual confetti, and I'm still on the plane, and I'm showing it to the stewardess, and I'm really excited." 8 hours later, when that plane lands in Chicago, and you get the typical, you know, welcome to the place you get, the local time is, you have to clear customs, this is baggage claim, connecting flight information, and then I hear, "Would the following passenger, Ramon de Leon, please make your presence known while exiting the jet bridge."
That's a scary thing these days.
I was seated in
flagged.
3A, and I literally looked for, the first thing I looked for was security, a dog. I'm like, what could have possibly happened in the last 8 hours? So when I got there, they actually had empowered employees ready to deliver me a very powerful message. Oh, let's see this. Hold on. Minor glitch. There we go.
You're not going to believe this world. Jet bridge. All right. I just got off the plane. I've been in Chicago only a few minutes, and then I hear my name say, "Ramon de Leon, you know, please come here." So I am being greeted by staff, friends here from American Airlines here in Chicago, and your goal is what was your message to me?
Congratulations on your executive platinum status. Woo!
Oh my God! Thank you very much.
The best.
Ramon, wow, right here,
Glad to have
out of here.
Thank you for your good.
Now, after that happened, okay, so the first thing, you know, you have to have the tools. Had I not had a phone that was charged and had battery, had I not had the insights and the deseo y ganas, I would not have made that video. Because technically, on the jet bridge, on an international flight before customs and immigration, you're in limbo. You know, you're not in the US, you're in transit, so to speak. So the fact that they actually went into a secured area of the airport on the jet bridge to meet me and do that, to this day, totally blows my mind. Why they did it, how they did it, whatever metrics they had to use, I'm grateful that they did.
It's simple. They're listening. They're paying attention. They're thinking about making every interaction remarkable. So we came in here, when we first got here, we skipped in here. And I like to use that as a metaphor. If you can make your customers metaphorically skip with every interaction, if you can make your employees feel like they're skipping at work, you win. It's that simple. And it can be done. I mean, I've seen Walmart stores, and Walmart, you think of them as the evil empire. I've seen Walmart stores with employees in there that have smiles on their faces all day long. And truth be told, it comes down to the manager at the store level, who's bringing it down there and making that something that they want to do. And think about how different that experience is.
I think that leads into your slide here, where, to me, when I look at this, it's done beats perfect. You know, it almost reminds me of Google Glass. Love it, like it, or hate it. But if you ever see that first prototype of Google Glass, it looked like these shop glasses with the Droid phone with the duct tape on the side of it. So done definitely beats perfect. Had they never gotten to that first prototype, there's no way they would have the product today.
Interact, engage, get out there. Don't wait for the perfect strategy. Don't wait for the perfect strategy with your employees. Start engaging. Walk in. Actually ask them when they come into work, how was your weekend? What did you do? And then listen to the answer. Not the, how you doing? Someone says, how you doing? Actually say, no, really, what did you do this weekend? How did it go? Show some real interest. Create an environment and a culture that does it. Why do you think companies like Facebook and Google keep employees with, okay, sometimes they go a little far, they've got massages, but it's about getting people to stay at work. I know smart companies with 50 employees, they buy lunch for them every day. And when I talk to the CEO about it, he says it flat out, he goes, look, number one is I want them to like each other. I want them to stay here and not go out to lunch. I want them to brainstorm and work with each other when they're here. And I want them to be able to say to people, hey, I love my job. Can you believe they buy me lunch? A little thing like that makes such an incredible difference.
So to make
Real
that happen,
Trump's perfect.
So to make that happen, what you're telling us is that you almost have to let your guard down a little bit. You have to not be afraid to dance with 2 left feet or 2 right feet, and basically you're saying you need to be fearless.
Be fearless.
Now the biggest example that I could have of being fearless is this. You need to work, play, and create with the passion of a child.
Let your child come back out. What do we do with our kids? Think about what you're doing with your kids every day. Don't speak that loud. Use an inside voice. Don't do that here. Anybody here ever try to dig to China at the beach? Don't tell your kid. My parents said, go ahead, go for it. Every day I didn't get there, and I came back the next time to the beach, figuring next time I'm going to get there. And I literally expected, when I was digging that hole, for a head to pop up. Swear to God. It's really what I thought. You ever watch kids play with blocks? Anybody ever go to a children's museum where they have like the block tables? Watch kids play. Look at the way they talk to each other. It's the way you want your employees talking to each other. They say, hey, how about if we try it this way? Yeah, let's try it. I can't tell you how many times I watched my daughter try to build a bridge just by putting the blocks up and then watch them fall. And they kept trying, and nobody said, you're stupid. They said, let's try it again. Let's figure it out. That's what we have to be doing.
So it's a prime example of what you talk about, empowering creativity.
Empower creativity. Empower it in your staff. Empower it in each other. Stop telling each other that things are stupid or dumb. Hear out those ideas, because that's where innovation comes from.
So if you do this, Ted, and now you got to understand, I love connecting the rainbows and watching the sun come up as well as I watching it come down. But at the end of the day, it's a business. And a business without customers doesn't exist. And a business without positive revenue and cash flow almost doesn't exist. So what happens here with this message where you're trying to tell us that if we focus sometimes a little too much on the money, even though it's a business, we overlook one of the most powerful tools we have, our people.
The people. There's no more line anymore. You can't separate business and home. I mean, you have to make a personal decision. I share everything on my Facebook page. I get more outreach and playback from the posts I write about my daughters, from the pictures of me surfing with my daughter in Costa Rica, from CEOs and CMOs than I do from the marketing stuff I write. Because there's hundreds of guys writing marketing stuff. I'm really no smarter than the rest of them, other than I'll speak my mind and say what I actually think, and they know they can count on me for it. But I'm sharing things about my real life. I'm sharing things about being a dad. I'm sharing things about how important those things are. I'm making it real. I'm saying what they're afraid to say. If my daughter has a track meet and there's a business meeting, I'm at the track meet. And I'm being authentic and I'm being real, and that's me.
So by being authentic, by being real, you're being social.
Because you know what doesn't work for a social media strategy?
Not being social.
Not being social.
So I want to give you a very basic example as we wind this up. Now, I delivered pizzas for 3 years, about 25 years ago. But the thing is, how many of us take a cab? How many of us have good experiences and bad experiences? I want to share with you something really quick as we get close to wrapping this up. A friend of mine was taking his cab down in San Antonio, Texas. Anybody here from San Antonio? Now you tell me if you ever ran across the disco cab. We got audio?
We're in the disco cab. Saving the best for right now. 1, 2, go. Let's go.
I think he likes his job.
Glow sticks. Right now. So nice.
I have a feeling when they get out of this cab, they are going to remember the experience they had.
Look, this is a perfect example. I personally don't love Tony Robbins and what he preaches, because he says anybody can do anything. A lot of us have jobs we have to keep, but it's about what you make of that job when you're there.
Look at that. Think about your cab ride when you're headed back to Miami International. Now, Ted, as we wrap this up, I think we need to tell the world, welcome to the age of influence. What I mean by that is that it only takes one person con ganas, one person with that desire to make a difference, one person to be the catalyst, to be that energy, to be that person that lights up the room when you walk in, not when you walk out. While on vacation in Mexico, I had to pull over the side of the road. I was watching the sunset and those birds follow that sun. It's almost as those kids trying to dig their way to China. I bet those birds kept following and following and following and said, we will one day get there. It just takes one to make a difference. The question is, are you one of those one in your job, in your life, in your familia that are ready to make a difference? So let's wrap this up, Ted.
Welcome to the age of influence, where anyone can build an audience, affect change, advocate brands, build relationships, and make a difference right from the bedroom. Is it going to be you?
That's the question. Let me tell you, both of us, Ted, when we were given the opportunity to come speak together at Hispanicize, there was a couple of opportunities where Lucky me! All I can say is thank you very much for your time. Ted, thanks for the opportunity to share the stage with you. Mi hermano de las redes sociales. Let's go, and we are out of here! Estás loco, man.